Hey, thank you very much. My name is Jay Rudnicki. I'm the Secretary, Treasurer, and Chief Financial Officer for the Louis Riel School Division. And I'd like to call the September 5th annual meeting of the Louis Riel School Division Board of Trustees to order. The Louis Riel School Division brings together a community of schools on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe, Innuak, and Dakota. Our division is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We recognize that Manitoba is also the traditional land of the Anishinaabe and Dene. We respect the treaties made on this land and acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and present. We dedicate ourselves to authentic alliances with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and cooperation. We'd like to welcome everyone participating in this virtual meeting. This is also to notify you that we audio record board meetings for accuracy. Unless approved, photographs, personal recordings, audio, visual, or otherwise are not permitted. Our vision is for all members of our community to excel as caring, confident, capable, and resilient lifelong learners who contribute to a democratic and sustainable world. Our mission is to provide a safe, inclusive, and engaging environment where personal and collective learning are valued, and each one of us reaches our full potential. In accordance with our procedural bylaws, all board members in attendance have read, signed, and will adhere to the following documents: the board's annual code of conduct, conflict of interest, our board members' annual oath of confidentiality, and our board members' annual declaration of residency. So for the board, the school board's annual code of conduct and conflict of interest, board members are responsible for adhering to the policies in the board policy manual and all subsequent policy revisions of the Louis Riel School Division. Board members are responsible for preventing real or perceived conflicts of interest to protect the integrity of the Louis Riel School Division. Contravention may result in various sanctions, including public censure. School board members shall perform duties with integrity in a way that will maintain public, constituent, and board member confidence in the Louis Riel School Division, ensure no real or perceived advantage is taken by virtue of their position or from information obtained due to their position as a board member, and immediately disclose to the chairperson of the board or to the board members at the board meeting any existing or potential conflict of interest on any issue. This disclosure will be recorded in the minutes. Be familiar with sections 36 to 39 of the Manitoba Public Schools Act and fulfill any obligations therein. Prior to taking off of office, trustees will complete a statement disclosing assets and interests in accordance with 39.91 subsection 4, which shall remain on file with the Secretary Treasurer for the duration of their service. So that being said, I have received signed code of conduct, conflict of interest declarations from 8 of our trustees. At this time, I would like to call upon our trustees to declare anything verbal when it comes to any perceived or real conflict of interest at this time. I have.
I just want to declare that I'm the CEO of Peak of the Market and Blue Sky Produce, which also runs the Farm to School program in many of the schools in LRSD.
Thank you, Trustee Kowalchuk. Trustee Turner.
I just want to declare that I am an insurance broker for Marsh Canada.
Thank you very much, Trustee Turner. Any other declaration?
I don't consider it a minor, but I do have a sister-in-law who is a teacher within RSD at Windsor Park College.
Thank you very much, Trustee Simignola.
I would like to declare that my wife is a teacher in the Louisville School Division. My stepson is a student in the Louisville School Division, and the organization Save Our Saint I work for occasionally does collaborative exercises and events with LRSD schools.
Thank you very much, Trustee Palmquist. Okay, thank you very much for declaring your code of conduct and conflict of interest.
Mr. Rudnicki?
Yes, Trustee Nordheim.
Sorry, I unmuted slowly. I will also declare, although I wasn't aware that that was necessary, that my son and daughter-in-law both work in the school division.
Okay, thank you very much, Trustee Nordheim. And Trustee Sigurdsson.
Yes, and I should also declare then that I have a son who attends LRSD schools.
Thank you very much, Trustee Sigurdsson. Okay.
Sorry. I wasn't aware of the student declaration, but I do have a daughter who attends school in Louisville.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Simiola. Moving on is the election of our chair and vice chair of the board. And so after discussion with the trustees prior to this meeting, it has been declared that Trustee Nemeth will be the chair of the board of the Louisville School Division for the 2023-2024 school year. I will bring that to a vote. I need a mover and a seconder. Sorry, okay.
Over.
Moved.
Moved is Trustee Simiola, second. Seconded by Trustee Palmquist. Any questions before I move it to a vote? Hearing none, opening the vote. Just pop up in your screen in a second. More than a second. Yes.
It's not,
I'm voting yes. I don't see anything, but I'm voting yes.
Voting yes. Okay.
Yeah,
thank
is
you.
it supposed to be on eScribe?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I don't see it, nothing coming up, but I vote yes.
Trustee
Thank you.
Palichik also votes in favor.
Nordheim in favor.
Thank you. And Trustee Garrier.
I'm in favor.
Thank you very much. And that motion has passed. Carried. Second is the vice chair for the 2023-2024 school year. And it is declared that Trustee Sigurdsson be vice chair of the board of the Louisville School Division of Trustees for the 2023-2024 school year. Could I please get a motion and a seconder?
I'll move that.
Mover.
Seconded by Nordheim.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Garrier and Trustee Nordheim. And any questions before I open up to vote? Hearing none.
Nordheim, yes.
Garrier, yes.
Palmquist, yes.
Simiola, yes.
Thank you very much. And that vote is closed. And the motion is carried. At this point in the meeting, I will hand it over to the chair, Trustee Nemeth, who can conduct the meeting. You do this way better than I do. Once you're ready, this.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I would start, and I know that I speak for Vice Chair Sigurdsson when I extend thanks to our trustee colleagues for their votes of confidence. We take the commitment that we are making quite seriously. We look forward to serving in this capacity and by extension, serving our community. So thank you very much. Item number 4 speaks to procedural bylaws. Normally in an annual meeting, we would be reaffirming our procedural bylaws. However, there are some changes that we are bringing forward. And so this will take place in the regular meeting, which is coming up after this one. In terms of continuing committees, we moved to a committee of the whole committee structure. I believe it was now 3 years ago, with the exception of our endowment fund committee. So the Re-Elevate Endowment Fund committee still exists. We had a conversation as a board prior to this meeting, and at that time identified who would chair the committee and who would sit as trustee representatives. So at this time, the motion is that Trustee Turner will be declared the chair of the Re-Elevate Endowment Fund Committee for a 1-year term effective immediately. Trustee Simoniola will be declared a trustee committee member of the Re-Elevate Endowment Fund Committee for a 2-year term effective immediately. And that Trustee Sigurdsson will be declared a trustee member for a 1-year period effective immediately. We will also at this time recommend that Frankie Synergy and Tamara McCaffrey be reappointed as committee members for a 2-year term, also effective immediately. So I need a mover and a seconder for this, please.
Nordheim moves.
Thank you. Second.
Simonyola seconds.
I think I'm going to look for a seconder from somebody that is not being appointed. So I would look to Palmquist or Kolachek for a second, please.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any questions on this trustee committee makeup for the year, or the committee makeup? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor?
Nordheim, yes.
Thank you.
Palmquist, yes.
Guerrier, yes.
Simonyola, yes.
And the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Item number 6, we need to appoint signing officers every year. So the recommendation is that the signing officers for the board be the chair or vice chair of the board and the secretary, treasurer, or the superintendent. And I require a mover and a seconder for this, please.
Turner, so move.
Thank you. I need a second, please.
Nordheim, second.
Thank you. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Nordheim, yes.
Palmquist, yes.
Guerrier, yes.
Simonyola, yes.
And none opposed, and the motion is carried. In terms of regular meeting dates and times, the recommendation is that regular board meetings be held on the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of each month, commencing at 6:30 p.m. This would exclude winter and summer breaks. I need a mover and seconder for this, please. Moved by Trustee Sigurdsson, second.
Seconded by Trustee Kolachek.
Thank you. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Nordheim, yes.
Palmquist, yes.
Guerrier, yes.
Simonyola, yes.
And that motion is carried. Thank you. Finally, the last piece of business in this annual meeting is related to how we electronically publish our meeting agenda. And the recommendation is that the agenda be published electronically on the LRSD website at least 3 calendar days prior to the regular board meeting. This is a practice that we have used for quite some time. So I need a mover and seconder for this, please.
Guerrier
Mover.
moved.
Thank you, Trustee Guerrier, second.
Nordheim,
Thank you very much. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Nordheim, yes.
Carrier, yes.
Almquist, yes.
And opposed, trustee Semanyola, your vote?
Simonyola, yes.
Thank you, and the motion is carried. That brings us to the end of the agenda of our regular meeting, and we are adjourned. We move at this time to our regular meeting for September 5th. Just going to pause for a minute and ensure that the technology has caught up.
Yeah.
Just while we're making sure that everybody has access to the meeting to the extent that they need to. I'm going to remind trustees to refresh their screen on a regular basis or engage with it in some level, just to ensure that you keep connected.
Yeah, it is an e-scribe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that they can vote, so that they can vote.
Yeah.
We are good to go.
All right. You're good to go?
Yeah.
All right. So here we are at the regular meeting of September 5th, the Blue Real School Division Board of Trustees. Would like to extend a welcome to everybody this evening at our first regular meeting of the year. The first item of business, of course, is to approve the agenda for the meeting, and I need a mover and seconder for that, please.
Moved by Nordheim.
Thank you. Second.
Simonyola.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Nordheim, yes.
Carrier, yes.
My e-scribe vote works now, so I should be able to do that going forward.
That looks good. Thank you. The motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of June 6th. This item was deferred from the June 20th meeting. I haven't received any indication that there is anything that needs to be corrected or edited, so these minutes will be accepted and archived as distributed. Item 2.3 is the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting from June 20th. I haven't received any indication that there were some corrections or changes that needed to be made, and so these meetings as well will be accepted as distributed and archived accordingly. This takes us to action items. Item 3.1. As I mentioned in our annual meeting, we have changes that have been made to our procedural bylaws. And in accordance with the existing procedural bylaw and with the unanimous consent, of trustees in attendance, all three readings may occur at one meeting in order to adopt these changes. So the recommendation is that the procedural bylaws of the Louisville School Division Board of Trustees be amended and receive first, second, and third reading and be approved. I will get a mover and seconder to respond, and then we can open it up for any questions.
Trustee Kolachek moves.
Thank you.
Turner, second.
Thank you, trustee Turner. Any questions on the changes that we're making to the bylaws? All right, hearing none, I will just take this opportunity for the folks that have joined us this evening to just offer a little bit of clarity around what these changes include and what has compelled them. They primarily, with some housekeeping pieces, they primarily speak to the procedures by which we will welcome members of the public to join and engage with the board during its regular meetings. Once these changes have been adopted, they are published on our website, so you are more than welcome to take a look at them. And they will provide clarity and direction and a process if anybody wants to join online, join in person, or make a presentation to the board. So these are updated in response to some challenges we've been navigating of late, but they are also reflective of new procedures around some technology pieces, and also just ensuring that we remain as transparent as possible in terms of the business that we are conducting, which is when the board does its work, which is at regular meetings. So given that there's no questions, Trustee Sigurdsson, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's not a question, just a comment. I wanted to thank our administrators for the hard work put into crafting these and with our input, of course. And just to say that it's very positive that we're making these changes to provide clarity given the changes in technology that have taken place since we originally passed these bylaws, as well as other changes in public participation.
So if there are no other questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Yes, Trustee Guerrier.
And seeing none opposed and no abstentions, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Item 3.2 is related to religious instruction. Just to provide a little bit of background on this follows procedures set out in the Public Schools Act. And in this case, the recommendation is that bylaw 20232024-001 being a bylaw to authorize the instruction of religion at Ecole Van Bellingham during the 2023-2024 school year receive first, second, and third reading and be approved. I need a mover and seconder for this, please.
Hold on.
Moved by Trustee Semenyola, second, Trustee Sigurdsson. Any questions on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Guerrier, yes.
Waiting Trustee Palmquist and Trustee Palmquist votes. All right, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Item 4 is LRSD news, and we begin with a welcome from me. And I want to take this opportunity certainly to welcome all of our new students and staff and new families and our new administrators to the 2023-24 school year. We've had folks in buildings and on buses for weeks now, getting ready to welcome students and staff back for another year. I want to take this opportunity as well to remind you and reaffirm that the board remains focused on student engagement and success and providing what is needed to our learners and their families to see this realized. To our staff, I want to say thank you for your ongoing commitment on behalf of the board, which contributes directly to all of the good things happening in our growing school division, for your caring and your kindness and your generosity, and for ensuring that our schools and classrooms are safe, inclusive, welcoming, and respectful places to learn and grow, and for providing the same to your peers in your workspaces. It goes without saying that public education in 2023 is not without its challenges, but I am so very pleased and very proud to be part of a school board and part of a school division that works so hard so that all students succeed, feel like they belong, are accepted for who they are and excited to learn, and who will graduate ready to embrace whatever comes after high school. So I look forward to another exciting school year full of opportunities and challenges as we celebrate successes. And I'm very pleased to be joined by the folks around the table. That's a segue to news from Trustee Nordheim. This item was deferred from June 20th, and I will turn it over to her.
I don't think you can ever defer congratulations too often. So we will return to the talking about our June festivities, with the graduation powwow being a wonderful experience for all involved. We saw the highest number of our students to date choosing to celebrate their graduation by participating in the powwow. Many thanks to the organizers, the guests, and the Dakota Collegiate for hosting. That's always a great experience, although I have to say that I'm not getting any better at dancing as we move forward with that. There was an interesting article in June, if you didn't get a chance to read it, about assessment at Glenlawn Collegiate, and we look forward to learning more through the next years, as assessment will be one of the priorities of the multi-year strategic plan. Our board has experienced some significant distractions over the past few months, but I would like to point out that both Chris Sigurdsson and Sandy Nemeth have provided strong leadership, and we have managed to maintain our commitment to all students, families, and staff. And for that, we're very grateful. And finally, the board members enjoyed celebrating convocations with all of our graduates. These events are so impressive thanks to the hours of work behind the scenes that goes into the planning and execution. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the board to congratulate all our public school graduates who have stuck with us for 13 years, and we celebrate your success. In addition to the parents who again have supported public education and their students. And again, many thanks to all of our staff for the efforts that were put in to make our kids not just feel successful, but be successful as they move on to all kinds of opportunities outside of the education, the public education system. Thanks very much for allowing us to celebrate those June events.
Thank you very much, Trustee Nordheim, for bringing good news on a good day. Item 4.2, turn to the superintendent for some welcoming words and some news from one of his team.
Thanks. Well, I want to build on your welcome this evening. I want to welcome those joining us on YouTube. Our meeting's being live streamed, and the last time I checked, there are 64 people on our YouTube channel joining the meeting. So welcome to LRSD. Many of you, I suspect, are from the community, and so welcome to a new year. Hopefully, those joining us online that are parents, families connected to our schools have enjoyed a restful summer, are revitalized and prepared for the new year. That said, I know that there's this nervous excitement out there about the days ahead as you ready yourself to come into schools. In my household this morning, there was a nervous excitement. One I experienced 34 years ago today, in that my youngest daughter, Camille, is starting her teaching career this year, just like I did 34 years ago. And as we hugged each other before she left for work, we reminded each other how you you turn that nervous excitement into something positive, exciting, reassuring, and that excitement is to think about relationship. It starts with relationships at the heart of the journey in public schools and in LRSD, and so if you keep that at the heart of it all, only good things can flourish from that. And now I'm passing it on to my assistant superintendent colleague, Jeff Anderson, who is going to provide highlights, also deferred from June.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And it is my pleasure to share news from last June when things were wrapping up in our schools and there were many year-end celebrations. First, I'd like to turn to École Marianne Gabory, where under the leadership of teacher librarian Derek Acorn and teacher Jess Moore, grade 7 and 8 students at the school researched and planned an assembly and workshops for the entire school on June 16th to coincide with National Indigenous Peoples Day. There was also an official opening for the Truth and Reconciliation tree in front of the school with a metal engraving created by a parent from this community. The students showed leadership, thoughtfulness, and respect through their learning and actions, while conceding that there is still much work for us all to do. And a special thanks to Grandmother Chickadee for sharing her knowledge and emotional connections with the students and staff. News from Collège Jean Sauvé. Grade 9 students in June were nearing the end of their year of classes at Minnetonka School. And a special thank you to the Minnetonka community for being so accommodating and welcoming to our grade 9 students from Jean Sauvé last year, who needed to learn in another location because of construction in their building. They enjoyed their time at Minnetonka and appreciated opportunities to connect with the kindergarten to grade 6 students. They did so throughout the year. And when we were speaking about this in June, when we were scheduled to speak about it, they had just finished leading physical literacy activities on June 15th with those younger students. And at École Saint-Germain, students from the Environment Club were featured on CTV News the very morning of the June 20th board meeting, along with their teacher, Jennifer Engbrecht. The students shared their experience visiting Hentelef Park and appreciating nature through mindfulness and art. And in the spirit of the Environment Club, they went to the park on foot. So incidentally, École Saint-Germain has recently been recognized as a Sustainable Future School by the Learning for a Sustainable Future Foundation. And finally, I'd like to share some news from Collège Béliveau. On June 20th, it was their annual Amazing Race, and this year's theme was travel. So along with their teacher advisors, they worked as teams to compete in a variety of activities, including recognizing national anthems and flags of various countries, Irish dancing, boarding a plane on time, and race walking with suitcases, to name a few. The event was a fun way to celebrate a year of learning and to connect with their community. In addition to Béliveau's Kudas Against Cancer fundraising drive, finished on June the 20th and raised over $600 for the Never Alone Cancer Foundation. Just a few of the highlights from last June.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. Most appreciated. And again, another nice way to shine a spotlight on some of the many, many good things that are happening in Louis Riel. That takes us to item 5, which is an opportunity for the board to provide some suggestions on items that they would like to see come to the board by way of a presentation. I know there were a couple of Trustee Kolacek and Trustee Nordheim had made a couple of suggestions to me via email, but I'm hoping that the two of you will share the thoughts that you had, please, in this meeting. So Trustee Nordheim, would you mind starting?
Not at all. I think one of the things that I would think that everyone would appreciate is hearing from our teacher librarians. We're very fortunate in Louis Riel that we've prioritized having teacher librarians maintain their support to teachers in schools. And I think it would be interesting for everybody to hear how they go about choosing the books that are in the libraries and how much work goes into that in providing support to classroom teachers. So that would be one that I'd be interested in. I did mention the Glen Lawn assessment, and I think because we're working on assessment, as is most of the province, it would be interesting to hear some updates on what's going on in that regard. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on my third request, but I certainly will come back. I think there's a lot of value in us hearing some of the background information to some of the work that goes on in our classrooms. It is supported by many of our learning team folks, our teacher librarians, and some of our industrial arts people to kind of do the cross-curricular information or planning. And I think all those are going to be very important for us to have.
Thank you. Trustee Kolachek, would you speak to your suggestions?
Yes, trustee Nemeth. I was thinking that, while some of us have been on the board longer than others, we have had some presentations long ago in regards to career development within our high schools, and Adriano had put on a presentation very early on when I was a trustee, and Adriano has now moved on to a different role. And I think it would be great to get an update or a presentation on what's happening with career resource support and programming within our high schools that support our students.
Okay.
And then the other one that I would like to hear about is the family centers. So the family centers are a unique resource to our communities as well as our schools. And unless you're within the LRSD community already, a lot of people aren't aware of our family centers and what they do. And I think it's important, for everyone to know what they are, where they are, and how they can support community and families in the southeast area of Winnipeg.
Thank you. Trustee Garrier.
Hello, I have a couple of areas that I would love to see some presentations in. One of them is our Indigenous group of support teachers and the department. I would like to see just, what we've got going on there. And I was really interested in the grandmother and grandfather program that is involved. I also thought that maybe our community would be interested in our learning teams and our student services area. So if we could have some information on how our students are supported throughout our division. And probably the third thing that I was really interested in hearing a presentation on would be our Arts and Technology Center. From what I've seen, it's an amazing, amazing building with so many opportunities for students in Louis Riel. And I just think we could share that with our community.
Thank you. Trustee Palmquist.
I understand there were a group of École Provencher and École Henry Bergeron parents and community members who organized a bike riding school bus late in the school year last year. Be interested in hearing about their experiences promoting safe and pleasant travel to LRSD schools. And likewise would be interested in hearing from some of our school patrol groups, perhaps the youth who are outside of our schools every morning, making sure that kids have an opportunity to go to school safely, talking about their challenges and successes.
Great, thank you. Suggestions from anybody else? This is a good start. All right, seeing none, these have been diarized. Certainly if you can think of anything else that you want to add, let me know. And we will start to infuse these into our agendas along with the other things that we routinely receive presentations and updates on. So thank you very much. That's great. Item number 6, Re-Elevate Endowment Fund. I will turn that to the chair of that committee, Trustee Turner, for comment.
Thank you, Trustee Nemeth. We are currently working on a spring event that we're hoping to have a sit-down event with large table and linens and so on. We are hoping to have divisional choir and jazz bands. We are just waiting for a date to be provided to us when it would be convenient and where the students would be available, what date. So that's our main focus right now. That's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Just so I have a question is whether we need to redo that motion or not.
No, because it was done in the annual meeting, we'll remove this motion.
Okay.
We do have to that Frankie and Tamara be appointed as community committee members. That needs to be done.
They were appointed in the annual meeting.
That was done in the motion in the annual meeting. So it's been looked after. Okay, I lost where I was here.
Number 7.
Item 7, that takes us to board education. Annual report to the community, and I will turn this into our superintendent.
Yes, well, I'm excited about the annual report to the community being shared with everyone later this week. And so this is a public service announcement on my part to get people excited. So you only get to see the cover tonight.
No.
Isn't it exciting though? Doesn't it want you to read the 43 pages of stories inside that cover? I want to. And so everyone can look forward to its imminent release. We're going to the annual report, as I just said, will be out. The physical copies will be out to schools later this week, and that those physical copies will be accompanied by a spotlight story, a message to staff and families, encouraging them to read the many stories we have to share about last year. And again, those stories across 43 pages just touch on a smattering of the many exciting learning opportunities there were in LRSD. And so this will be a part of the board's education in the next few meetings. That it's become a tradition.
Yes.
The ARC has been the focus of our learning. And so we'll continue with that tradition in the coming meetings. We'll talk more deeply about different parts of the ARC. But it's also, it's a special ARC in that it's connected to our multi-year strategic plan, 2 plans, that is. This ARC brings a closure to the 2019-2023 multi-year strategic plan and does speak to the next 4 years. And what we have released, what we have made public since our board meeting in June is that multi-year strategic plan for the next 4 years. Jamie's pointing to the website that we've created to engage our community with a multi-year strategic plan and our 4 strategic priorities that we've already touched on this evening. And this too will become a big part of our board education conversation over the next few months, and will be a part of the conversation for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions? All right, I'm sure there's going to be lots to come. I know we're looking forward to this. This is a culmination of a lot of work, but it's also a really nice way just to focus in on so much good that's going on in the division. Item 8, finance and audit. We have a couple of items here, starting with the annual statutory declaration by our Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you very much. Dear Chair of the Board, pursuant to Section 53, subsection 5 of the Public Schools Act, this letter will constitute my statement to the Louis-Riel School Division Board of Trustees of all occupations in which I am engaged, which involve the receipt by me of money other than that belonging to the board or to myself. As a chartered professional accountant, chartered accountant, I do have the option of maintaining a private office. I have not, however, sought or accepted any engagements during the last year, nor do I intend to do so. Consequently, I hereby state that my sole occupation is with the Louis-Riel School Division. In accordance with Section 53, subsection 5 of the Public Schools Act, I shall, during the balance of this year, report to the board on any such additional occupations or any discontinuance thereof. Sincerely signed, Jamie Rudnicki.
Oh, and I get a copy, right? Live action. All
There you
right.
go.
So the recommendation then is that the statutory declaration made by Jamie Rudnicki, Secretary Treasurer for the 2023-2024 school year be accepted. I need a mover and seconder for this, please.
I'll move it.
Moved by Trustee Garrier, second by Trustee Kolachuk. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Gary, yes.
Polachek, yes.
And no abstentions or votes against, so the motion is carried. Thank you. Next item is the 5-year capital plan.
Thank you very much. So this traditionally gets presented to the Board of Trustees in June. And so I just wanted to bring your attention to the 5-year capital plan that was submitted to the province. Okay. So on an annual basis, Louisville School Division submits a 5-year capital plan to the province detailing identified capital requirements and improvements that it deems a priority. This comprehensive plan is comprised of 8 sections and include requests for new schools, additions and renovations to existing schools, accessibility improvements, roofing replacement and maintenance, structural repairs, equipment replacement, childcare space requests, and divisionally funded projects. So this request was submitted to the province at the end of May 2023. So when we go through the 5-year plan, the first section, new schools, the division has requested building 3 new schools in addition to the new École Sage Creek Bonavista school that has been approved by the province. So we are requesting a new 500-student elementary school at École Varennes to replace the existing building, a new 500-student capacity elementary school in Waters Urban Village, and a new 700-student high school in Precinct K. In section B, additions, renovations, and modular classrooms, we have identified J.H. Bruns Collegiate, classroom addition and renovations, Collège Bellevaux, expansion and renovations, Windsor Park Collegiate, expansion and renovations, Louis Riel Arts and Technology Center, renovation of their current culinary arts and aesthetics facility. École Provencher, we've identified the need of a new building envelope, windows, ventilation system, and accessibility upgrades. École Marianne Gabory, new entrance addition and windows, and Glen Lawn Collegiate, complete renovation of their graphics lab. For section C, which is our capital access projects, I'm just going to scroll through here. It's a very long list. Accessibility. There we go. So for accessibility, we've identified 10 priority needs for the current year when it comes to removing barriers in our schools. So as you see from the list, for Dakota Collegiate, we're requesting universal washroom for students with exceptional needs, an elevator update to be barrier-free. For École Van Bellingham, we're requesting a universal washroom for students with exceptional needs. Naqua Play School, requesting a universal washroom for students with exceptional needs and accessible doors. Victor Major School, universal washroom for students with exceptional needs. Archwood School, universal washroom for students. Sage Creek School, a universal washroom and elevator for students with exceptional needs. Provencher, an accessible ramp and universal washroom for students with exceptional needs. Samuel Berlin School, universal washroom for students with exceptional needs. Same with Shamrock. And for Arts and Technology Center, we're requesting an elevator as well as universal washroom for students with exceptional needs. And so these are the top 10 priorities that we've identified in the division that we submitted to the province. Under the next section will be the roof work that needs to be done for the schools. And I'll just show you, roofing. So in the roofing section request, we actually have identified 70 priorities, that's 70, priority needs for the current year when it comes to roof repairs in our schools. So how we have our schools set up is usually each of our schools have different roofs that they've been designated. And so, for instance, in Aqua Place, roof A, so a section of the roof that's designated roof A, requires has weak areas of membrane, areas of deteriorating felts, and numerous membrane splits, and continued leaky activity is anticipated. So we've submitted to the province 70 identified lists, 70 identified areas throughout the entire division. So you can see the comprehensive list, and it's a very, very extensive list that our maintenance department does on an annual basis and updates this. The next section of our request is relates to structural. So there are 3 areas of priority where we've deemed structural deficiencies that need to be addressed. So the first is J.H. Brunt's Collegiate. We've identified multiple cracks in the foundation wall, ongoing water seepage, and the source is unknown. We've indicated to the province that this is a priority and that this risk is imminent and that we need to address this problem immediately. For Windsor School, we have a major window and wall upgrade that we've requested, and this has been requested since 2019. And this request is designated as orange, which means that we require remediation within 2 or 3 years in order to not have more significant problems in the future. And finally, Nelson McIntyre Collegiate, south end of the building is shifting and cracking. This is determined to be an orange code, which is 2 to 3 years, and remediation is required as well to fix the problem. So that is structural. Then our next section, we have our equipment replacement. And so we've identified 13 projects in which we need to replace either AMU units or added units, boiler replacements, and replace any other handling systems. So you can see from the list, we have Jean Sauvé, College Bellevaux, Nordale School, and the list goes on for the 13 areas. And finally, we've identified areas in our division where we've requested early learning and childhood care centers in our schools. Basically identified that we require additional spaces. And so we've requested additional spaces at École Marianne Gabory, Hastings School, Minnetonka School, École Howden, Dr. Penner, École Van Bellingham, École Guillaume, Glenwood School, Frontenac School, École Julie Riel, and St. George School. So this is a 36-page document that we submit every year with a 5-year plan moving out. And from there, the province will assess our requests and prioritize and discuss with the division to come up with, funding for the various projects. That's a lot of information in 2 minutes.
Trustees, what questions might you have? Okay, seeing none. Do you know approximately the price tag for like 70 individual roof repairs, some structural work and systems replacements? Do we have dollar values attached to any of this?
No. What we do is when we present the list to the province, they'll look at our list and we'll go basically authorize us to do a what's the word for it, a cost estimate of these, and accumulate those cost estimates and award based on what available dollars they have for these projects.
The reason I'm asking is that one of the conversations related to funding that school divisions are having is the millions and millions, the hundreds of millions of dollars that need to be invested in exactly what you've just shared.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, because in my mind, I'm wondering what that looks like province-wide. So if I knew approximately what it was in Louis Riel, I could maybe, well, I'd guess, I suppose is what I'd be doing, but it would be a massive number just for us. So, okay. Trustee Sigurdsson.
Yeah, I have two things. Pardon my ignorance, but what's AMU stand for?
That I'd have to ask our directors of facilities.
Okay.
I'm not up on the maintenance lingo.
Yeah, it's curious about that. And you say again, piggybacking on what the chair was saying, none of these seem to be in any way, I won't use the word frivolous, but just wish list sort of things. These are
Basic.
These are very basic needs that have to be addressed to keep our school buildings functioning so our kids are safe, our staff are safe. Do you agree with that?
It's yeah, to basically keep the buildings operational.
Yeah.
To support learning.
Okay, thank you.
My question, sorry.
Go ahead.
If memory serves me correctly, some of these requests have been on the list for longer than you might have expected in terms of the projection. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So for instance, if we go back to the structural, Windsor School and Nelson McIntyre Collegiate, this was a request predating 2019, which is already 4 years old now.
Right. So there's no question these are priorities, but that doesn't necessarily mean that translates into action from the province.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? All right, the board will continue to receive updates and we will be monitoring this, especially some of these ones that have been around, identified for multiple years now. Thank you very much. That's a lot of work that goes into that, and it's a pretty heady report, but certainly one worth receiving. Item 8.3 is capital D projects. This item also deferred from June 20th.
Yeah, so in addition to a 5-year capital plan, we have smaller capital projects, which the province calls capital D. And so what this is is a grant that we receive from the province to help support smaller repairs to our buildings. So in our 23-24 budget, we've committed $971,600 in our operations and maintenance department budget to support small capital projects. Of that amount, $428,400 is provided by the province, and the remaining $543,200 is internally funded by the Louis Riel School Division. And so below is a report that identifies small capital projects that the division has identified as a priority for the 2023-2024 school year. So as you see first on the list, we have various schools, asbestos abatement, flooring tiles. It's a safety and security priority, and we've allocated $87,000. So various schools on this list. It's not a designated 3 or 4 schools. It's basically just a budget of $87,000, and we'll use that money as based on immediate needs of the schools. So there's not specific schools under this category. So as the need arises, we'll use this budget to remediate any floor tile asbestos abatement. So St. George School, we look at upgrading the parking lot, $80,000. They call George McDowell. We're doing a multi-phase approach to upgrade our windows, $75,000. École Guyot, music room upgrade, $75,000. We've allocated $70,000 for new PA systems in the division, $70,000 to improve gym floor resurfacing, École Américaine Gabory, washroom renovation, $60,000. And so you can see from this list, there are various other small little capital projects that we have money for from the province, as well as budget that we've allocated to help support and address some of the smaller capital requirements of the division.
Okay. Trustees, any question? Oh, sorry, you weren't done.
No, so this was the entire list. I don't need to read out all of them, but just to make the our public and trustees aware that there are smaller projects that we do have allocated funds for that we'll be addressing this school year.
Okay. Trustees, any questions on capital D projects at all? To our superintendent?
AMU is an air makeup unit. And so it's about ventilation. Those are all ventilation projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no questions on this, then École Howden Playground is looking for some bridge financing.
Yeah, so over the summer, the École Howden Parent Association has undertaken a playground upgrade for the school. And in conjunction with the playground upgrade, they are doing a multi-phased approach. And so in this phase of the project, they are requesting financing in the amount of $79,900 and $5,000 to pay for phase 2 of the playground project. And so I'm bringing this request to the board.
So the recommendation then is that the board approve financing in the amount of $79,905 to pay for phase 2 of the École Howden Playground project in anticipation of the receipt of approved grants from the Parent Advisory Committee on completion of the project. I need a mover and seconder for this, please.
Trustee Kolicek moves.
Thank you. Second. Second by Trustee Sigurdsson. Any questions on this? So just to be clear, this is a loan, a repayable loan that will allow them to continue the work.
Yeah, so just as just for information for the public, what traditionally happens is that PACs will receive grants for these type of projects, but in order to receive the money from the grants, they have to invest or already pay for the project prior to get reimbursement for the invoices. So that's how it works.
Okay.
So I just, this was deferred from June, but I just saw some pictures today. It looks really wonderful, the work they've done.
All right, seeing no questions, then I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Trustee Garrier, yes.
No abstentions, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Item number 9 is a staffing update. So through the superintendent to Assistant Superintendent Jean-Paul for some information.
Thank you very much. So the Louis-Riel School Division currently employs a total of 3,049 people. This includes all of our permanent term, substitute, and casual employees. And to date, our HR and payroll teams have processed 2,084 hires and assignment changes. So that's involving new employees as well as reassignments of current employees. For the 23-24 school year, we posted over 600 positions. 329 of these positions were teaching positions. So again, these are either new positions or positions arising from transfers and reassignments. Of the balance of those positions, a large portion were EA, followed by some of the other employee groups. As of last week, we welcomed 43 new employees to the division for the 23-24 school year, including 23 teachers. We have 325 substitute teachers and 200 substitute educational assistants that have been processed for the school year to date. And we have roughly 30 new hires that are still in various stages of the hiring process. Some of our biggest challenges this hiring season have been around filling specialist positions, particularly music and industrial arts. And so we are reinforcing our relationships with the colleges and universities that train teachers specifically in these programs. And so working with their networks for folks who might not already be on our sub list or working and are connected to LRSD in any way to build those relationships. And of those positions, part of the challenge is due to the expansion of these programs resulting from increased enrollment in the division. More students, more classes, which means more industrial arts programming, music programming, et cetera, that need to be provided for those students. And I just want to say a word of thanks to the Assistant Director, Derek Sheldon, for his work on gathering data for this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustees, any questions on the information that was shared?
I don't have just one question.
Sure.
I know when we are going through the budget season, we had budgeted for an increase in certain positions as well. How does this number of new hire fare against what we budgeted? Are we close? Are we still looking to add a few more positions as we go to meet our budget? How are we ranking against that?
So in terms of hiring, there's always a little bit of contingency. So at this stage in the year, we kind of reevaluate where we're at in terms of were the projections in line with the actual number of students arriving at the doors of each of our schools. And so at times we make adjustments with that, and there is a small contingency if there are some adjustments that need to be made. But sometimes that also takes place in terms of if there are big shifts in what was anticipated movement of staff.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Sigurdsson?
Yes, you say that we currently employ over 3,000 folks. Can you tell us how much more that number is from last year or less? I'm assuming it's more.
That would be like, we've got the 43 new employees to the division this year. So that would be the overall increase.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Garrier?
Okay, just a clarification. After September 30th enrollment numbers come in, is that when we would reevaluate, or is there another time? Just so I know.
Yeah, so as you'd recall from last year, the staffing process is impacted by what school needs are. And so we do assess at the beginning of the year, but as we've done in previous years, if we need to reassess down the road, then that's something that we're looking at an ongoing basis.
Great, thank you very much.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for bringing that for us. I appreciate there's a lot of numbers in there, and it's we're certainly a growing school division all over the place. So we appreciate that, and thanks folks for the good questions. Item number 10 is chair information that is brought by the chair. So just a few items here that I'll go through fairly quickly. The first one deferred from June 20th is just a confirmation on our part that the process around the annual superintendent evaluation in accordance with policy CBI was completed as required. Anybody interested in looking at that closely can find it on our website. Item 10.2, board self-evaluation. I can also confirm, and this was also deferred from June 20th, that policy BAA board self-evaluation was followed and guided the board through its own self-evaluation process. And again, anybody who wants to take a closer look at that can find the policy on our website. Item 10.3 is convention reports. There was one convention that was attended over the summer, and that was by myself, which was the Canadian School Boards Association Congress held in Banff. The Canadian School Boards Association website has details, including all of the sessions that were offered. I would highlight very interesting and engaging keynotes, speakers, former Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi and Right Honorable Michaël Jean, who brought some very poignant, but also in some cases quite humorous perspective to the journeys that they have had respectively, and many breakout sessions by school divisions and jurisdictions across the country, related to student mental health and wellness, diversity, inclusion, and anti-racism initiatives that are being developed, governance policy development, and of course the work that the Canadian School Boards Association is doing. So again, that is all available on their website. And finally, the Manitoba School Boards Association has sent out a request for information that boards feel would be relevant to consider including in the development of their first ever multi-year strategic plan. So at this time, I would be interested in knowing from folks if there is anything in particular that they feel they would like MSBA to be aware of, that they would consider a priority in terms of a multi-year plan of addressing. And I know that there's lots going on. I don't want to get into a big discussion right now, but I would like to just take a couple of minutes if there's anything that anybody wants to share right now that I can feed back to the association. Okay, I know Trustee Nordheim had suggested in an email to me that that our provincial association should talk about some of the strategies and experiences school divisions are going to be facing regarding sexual orientation and gender identity, and what the policies and processes in place are doing in support, and what work still needs to be done. So I'm going to take that one away. Trustee Turner, did you want to add something?
Yes, I would just like the MSBA to lobby the province about child poverty and the correspondence to student achievement.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, if anybody thinks of anything else, let me know. We have, of course, we can reach out to them at any time. And oh, Trustee Garrier, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're muted, Trustee Garrier.
Sorry. I know Sandy and we've talked about this before, but I was thinking something to do with their education plan for just before someone becomes a trustee. I know they have some education in place for new trustees, but I'm thinking some education around if you're thinking of becoming a trustee.
Noted. Thank you very much. That's helpful. All right, that takes us to item 11, which is some updates from the senior leadership team to the board. We start with a deferred item from June 20th, which is a request for some financial assistance to the superintendent.
Well, what trustees have read are 4 submissions to the province requesting assistance. So the first bullet is a submission related to Marion School. Now that, and you can open it up, Jamie, but that submission is rather dated. What these submissions are also essentially is they capture a journey in time. They capture a journey that extends over several months, where again we're in constant dialogue with our colleagues in the civil service in the province, in the Manitoba government, making the case for some major capital investments. Marion School is one of them. What's exciting here is we are essentially at the end of the capital C, the Class C design process for Marion School. And these designs are really exciting for the school. And we look forward to sharing them with you as a board, but with the larger community in the weeks and months ahead. J.H. Brunch Collegiate, of course, is another important project. And it's connected to both Collège Béliveau and Windsor Park Collegiate. So here again, if Jamie opens the J.H. Bruns Collegiate request for proposal, we're looking here at a document that is comprehensive. It runs 71 pages. And it really, again, has to be seen as capturing a journey that we've been on with our colleagues in government. This one document alone isn't what we want trustees taking away, but rather the hundreds of pages you've waded through capturing this journey. And so here again, we're on a very positive trajectory. The journey has been very positive. The government, our government colleagues in the civil service responsible for bringing information to cabinet about capital needs in the province are on board. They see the need, just how important it is to move on J.H. Bruns Collegiate, and but also how it's connected to what we're also asking for relative to Windsor Park Collegiate and Collège Béliveau. And so connected to this item are those Collège Béliveau and Windsor Park Collegiate submissions as well. And so Jamie can open them. And again, here there are 4 parts to these submissions because they're each many pages long.
Yeah, it's about 300 pages long.
Almost, yeah, about 300 pages of documentation. So just important that trustees be well aware of all that's going into the work we're doing with our colleagues in government to bring these projects to fruition. And so finally, another important project that we're making the case to see happen is École Varennes, a decommissioning of a school where, well, you saw earlier in the presentation how Windsor School, an old school across the way from École Varennes, an even more historic building, we can modernize that building. We're indicating to the province there's a need to do some work around the old brick and some new windows, but it's a solid building. In the case of École Varennes, it's a building essentially that was built as a flood relief building in the 50s with an addition in the 70s. And what our engineers are telling us is that we should decommission this building, as it has occurred in parts of Winnipeg before, and build a new building. That hasn't happened again in 20 years. I've said this before, in 20 years in the city of Winnipeg. It's happening all over the place in other provinces, Regina, Saskatchewan, Montreal. I visited schools in all of those cities. New schools built in established neighborhoods for the very reason we need to see that happen at École Varennes. Here again, the conversation has been positive, and we look to see results in the coming months.
Yes, definitely. Trustees, any question on this item? Questions, rather? Okay, thank you.
And so finally, we're finding also ways of sharing this information with the community.
Okay.
The transparency you've seen tonight around capital projects supported provincially and supported locally. These requests for submissions, we're also looking to ways of having that available to the public, but in ways that make sense.
Okay. So one of the questions that we've already received is related to the status of the École Varennes rebuild, decommissioning and rebuilding. So that individual can be rest assured that at some point that information is flowing right through this to the school community and to parent councils. Okay, great, thank you. Moving on, new school updates, Ecole Sage Creek and Bonavista. For new school, singular.
Well, why don't we hand it off to Assistant Superintendent Anderson to provide an update regarding the new construction. We did celebrate an event in July, but there's more to share in recent news.
Great.
Very good, thank you. I can share with you that we had a groundbreaking ceremony on July 27th with numerous government and community representatives present. It was a really significant milestone in the development of this new school in Sage Creek. Another significant development is that the division is now the legal property owner. We've owned the property technically for a long time, but now finally the land title has been transferred. So that is all official. Some really big movements. The conditional use permit to construct the school and the development permit have been approved by the city of Winnipeg, and the foundation permit is currently in progress. Tender package 1 for excavation and foundation work was recently posted on MERX, and bid submissions have been reviewed with a recommendation submitted to capital planning and project delivery in the provincial government. And the design is now proceeding to the 66% phase. So this is really exciting work. And you'll recall our goal is to have the building open its doors for students at the beginning of the 25-26 school year.
Any questions on this, trustees? Remind us what the 66% phase is. I've forgotten.
Okay, so I have been learning an awful lot about architecture. Basically, the plans for the building become more and more refined as you move through the process. So this is about 2/3 complete of the design phase. So estimates become more accurate in terms of time, cost, that sort of thing. And the next phase after that is the 99% design phase.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, what's important to note is what Assistant Superintendent Anderson has also touched on is that unlike other school projects where we would wait for that 99% before starting construction, we're approaching the project in a very different way. It's the first time it's been approached this way for schools. And we're starting to, we're hopeful we're going to start to dig and build a foundation this fall.
Great.
And not wait for that 99%.
Trustees, any questions on this item? All right, Assistant Superintendent Anderson, you are speaking to 11.3 Collège Jean Sauvé, I'm assuming?
Yes, I am. So I can report that the completion date for the main floor, the new music room, and exterior site work is the end of October. You'll recall that we had hoped that that would have been a little bit sooner than it actually is. However, there's some work that remains to be done, including final testing like air balancing, some city inspections, and some of the finishes that are yet to be completed. So because of this, there is somewhat of a space shortfall at Collège Jean Sauvé. So classroom spaces have been rented for 3 teachers at the Dakota Community Center. Some students in grades 11 and 12 will have class there for the first 2 months of school while this work is completed. And they're expected to be in the main floor by the beginning of November. All grade 9 and 10 students will attend classes at Jean Sauvé in the main building at 1128 Dakota. And communication regarding this was sent to families last week. The second floor of the addition is scheduled for completion in mid-December with the fitness center to follow that. And the fitness center is where the old music room was. So it's being converted into a new fitness space adjacent to the gym.
All right, any questions on this item? All right, that takes us to an update on J.H. Bruns Collegiate. project and roof reinforcement.
And I'm speaking on behalf of Amber Bandari, our Director of Facilities, Maintenance and Transportation. She wishes she could be here, but I had to ask her to help us out this evening in the Monterey Board Office, so she was unable to join us. So we talked about J.H. Brown's Collegiate in item 11.1. This is about the existing building that Jamie touched on in the capital projects as well, and the work, that structural work that's occurring. So the structural project has been completed. It was completed on August 31st. Now there's another structural project, if you will, a roof reinforcement project that has been awarded to a contractor. And now we're waiting from that contractor a schedule and phasing plan so that we can begin this project with minimal to no disruption to school operations. And finally, we were also awarded science classroom renovations for the school. And so we've received authorization for 2 science classrooms. And we've had meetings with the design consultant just last week to finalize the tender, the opening and closing dates, and schedule a contractor for visits on site. So we are anticipating that the tender for this project will be posted on Merck's this week and will close on September 29th.
Trustees, any questions on this item? All right, that takes us to a traffic study around J.H. Brown's Collegiate, and Assistant Superintendent Murray is speaking to this one.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. I am very, very happy to share that the Lura-Riel School Division will be proceeding with the traffic study for the J.H. Brown's Collegiate area. We are working in conjunction with our architect partners, HTFC and Number 10, who are recommending a transportation consulting company to begin this work as soon as can be arranged. And the areas of focus in very large terms right now will be to have this company understand the traffic context, quantify traffic volumes, analyze traffic operations, and peak hour traffic analysis, parking and loading reviews, as well as active transportation and crossing control. And upon completion of the evaluation and assessment and analysis, we expect to have summarized findings and recommendations. So again, this is to respond to our community's concerns expressed in our conversations and consultations, but also proactively in anticipation of our renovation and expansion activities at J.H. Bruns. So happy announcement for the community indeed. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions on this one?
I have a question.
Sigurdson. Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay. Trustee Palmquist, go ahead.
Thank you, Marlene, for that information. I may have missed it, but is this traffic study being initiated by the LRSD or by the City of Winnipeg?
Lura-Riel School Division.
Okay, I'm just curious. I didn't know that the division could do a traffic study on its own. What could you just enlighten me about what mechanism we have for that for conducting a study like that?
It would be, as I said, with the recommendation of our 2 architect firms that we've partnered with in the J.H. Bruns project. They have engaged a transportation consulting firm who would work collaboratively with government partners in conducting the assessment.
Okay. All right. And so this is, and this would move that we're this is out of our own funds. And
Lure-Rail
the
School
city of Blue
Division,
Jays is-
in a very strong proactive move, is undertaking the study in listening to community voices during consultation processes, but also proactively preparing for a major project upcoming.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes, and again, thank you. This is certainly a very strong proactive move. I know we've heard concerns from parents and families in the area, but just piggybacking again on Trustee Palmquist's questions. So the city is not involved, but will they be involved at the end result with, because it's presumably they'd be the ones that would have to make the decision. So would we be, there's a mechanism to share this with the city when it's completed?
Yes, absolutely. And so we have been involved with civil servants in the province and the city in terms of sharing the concerns, seeking solutions, strategies. And so what we will come away with from the consultation with the company is a set of recommendations and a robust report in terms of their analysis to share forward.
Excellent. And I may have missed it, but is there an end, a due date for this?
As soon as can be arranged. So we are working on a tender and contract, and the company and our architect partners are aware of our intention as a division to go forward. So they're very poised and ready to collaborate and to be as expedient as possible about the work.
Great. And of course, the architects will be presumably incorporating some of the findings into their plans which would involve traffic loops and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And
Wonderful.
so there's a component for the traffic, parking and loading review to be a part of that. Yeah. Mhm.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
Sorry, one additional question building off of my colleague's question is, would it be possibly within the scope of this traffic study that it could make recommendations to for traffic management in the area around the school that is outside of the immediate school zone? Like that it could recommend better ways to get to and from the school and the community more broadly?
Active transportation yes, absolutely. That is a component of it.
Okay, that's great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions on this item? All right, that takes us to 11.6, which is related to a survey on air conditioning. Superintendent, on behalf of our facilities director.
Yes, well, I wanted to draw to trustees' attention as part of this ongoing conversation we've been having relative to air conditioning in our schools. We had the Manitoba government submit a request over the summer. Folks from the Capital Project Planning and Delivery Department of Consumer Protection and Government Services of the province of Manitoba requested, this is the first time in as long as I've been in the board office, 2005, that such a request has come forward, wanting to know how many schools in our division don't have air conditioning. And we already knew this. We've been talking for some time. Pre-pandemic, we moved to put air conditioning into schools that didn't have any, and the pandemic hit. We had to stop that initiative, and now we're committing to continue with that initiative. And so we have 11 schools remaining without air conditioning. One of them is École Varenne, and there we want, as I suggested earlier, to decommission the school and build a brand new school with air conditioning. And so that would leave 10 schools over the course of the next 4 years to be retrofitted with air conditioning. And so I'll be bringing forward to trustees a plan that is in its final stages of being refined, and a plan that would provide you with the information to make a decision to get all of these schools retrofitted by the end of your multi-year strategic plan. And also a plan then to communicate with the community the rationale for certain schools coming in the first year and certain schools coming in the fourth year, the rationale for that. And so what's hopeful here is that this survey from government will support that initiative, because right now we're going to do this with local dollars. But my hope is that this is a sign from the government of Manitoba that they're going to support us financially, and we'll see what maybe we could, if that's the case, what they could acknowledge they didn't support that was part of a local investment just pre-pandemic as well.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions on this item? Trustee Palmquist?
I've received a number of questions or comments, feedback from community members especially last spring, over portable air conditioners, various technologies, electric plug-in air conditioners, short disposable air conditioners, machines like devices like that. And I'm curious if there's been any consideration of the use of that type of technology in an interim or ad hoc basis as we work towards a more fulsome renovation of more schools.
So that is what we're doing. So we are actually installing in schools where there is no air conditioning, portable units to help alleviate the heat, the impact of the heat in those schools. One of the challenges is electrical systems in these older schools also needing to be upgraded to accommodate those portable units. But all of that is happening as we speak. It was happening last spring, and we'll continue to do that work of finding temporary solutions as well for all of these schools.
Thank you. Great to hear.
Seeing no other questions, then we will move on to asbestos management and control.
So I shared with the community information relative to the concerns around asbestos that came to light this summer in a way that's not ideal. The concerns around asbestos came to light through some reporting in the Winnipeg Free Press. And so what we want to avoid, and it caused some distress for some parents that called us over the summer and former students that were left wondering how to interpret what was being shared in the Winnipeg Free Press. And so one important area we need to improve is communication relative to infrastructure. And so you're seeing that on display this evening in terms of transparency relative to capital projects. You're also going to see that relative to matters like asbestos abatement. Right now, we follow policy, we follow legislation. And what's required in terms of communication is some paperwork being posted in a school. But that clearly isn't enough. And so we're going to, along with our government partners, we're going to see how we could enhance the communication for everyone in the community. And so an update I have relative to the information I shared in writing in August is that, well, as I shared in August, we've hired an environmental consultant to perform annual reassessments in all of our buildings. And all of those buildings will be completed by by September, the end of September. But we're not waiting on acting on those annual reassessments. We've received partial reassessment reports for 14 schools with recommendations to repair and or abate items in fair or poor conditions. You saw a budget line there relative to flooring tiles that have asbestos in them is just one example. And so of where asbestos is present. And so we're reviewing that information with the abatement contractor and preparing quotes and schedules for performing those abatement that abatement and repair work. And again, with a commitment to make all of that communication more transparent to the larger community.
Any questions on this item? Trustee Sigurdsson?
Yes, thanks for that. Just a couple of more of a question for clarification, just because I know there was some folks, I heard from some folks who were concerned about this, and then the article appearing, I just wanted to clarify that we weren't actually reprimanded or punished in any way. This was merely what do they call it? I've got the wording here. It was an improvement order.
Mm-hmm.
So it was basically a suggestion, and we immediately worked on that to fix what they had suggested we fix.
Yeah, but it was an improvement order. So we had an inspector find deficiencies, and those deficiencies were in how we were responding to where an item that could potentially have had asbestos, contain asbestos, showing deterioration, we hadn't responded quickly enough. And so, again, we want to avoid having that occur in the future. And so hence the commitment to enhancing those processes going forward.
But we immediately took action once the inspector gave the report.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And would you say as well that some of these issues may be a result of inefficient funding for the capital projects or for?
Well, yeah, well, one can make the connection, right? That there's all of this asbestos present in our buildings. Because again, asbestos was in many products until very recently. And so absolutely, as a society, until we commit to address that reality, we're going to be confronted with the need to monitor, repair, abate for a long time.
And as we saw earlier in the meeting, we have in fact for some time been making capital requests to the government for specific repairs.
That's right.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? All right, leadership team meeting last week, just some highlights.
Well, the big highlight, the big takeaway was our multi-year strategic plan. We re-engaged with the multi-year strategic plan. It was an opportunity to even just continue engaging with the words we're using to express to each other, to the community we serve, what we mean by those 4 strategic priorities connected to these ideas of belonging, mastery, independence, and generosity. And these 25 strategic actions that we're taking relative to those 4 strategic priorities. And so it was an exercise in refining the language still before we made public those strategic priorities in action on the website that we alluded to earlier this evening. And then it was about imagining the journey and the destination. So we had a conversation about imagining 2027. So imagining June 2027 relative to what we know about a given strategic action, where we are today, relative to a school we're a part of, relative to the whole of the school division, and imagining that destination, what would look different in June of 2027, and now designing back. So if we're describing to ourselves what we'd like to see in June of 2027, so that we can now operationalize this multi-year strategic plan by designing back. If this is the desired destination in June of 2027, what is it going to take the year in where do we need to be in June of 26, June of 25, June of 24? And so I hope to engage in a similar activity with the trustees in the weeks ahead. I'm calling on principals to engage in a similar activity with their staff in schools. I'm calling on those who lead divisional teams in LRSD board offices to engage in a similar exercise with colleagues.
I know there were a couple of folks, trustees that were there. Thank you for repping the board as it was and attending. Any questions on anything that you've heard the superintendent share from the meeting? All right, thank you. Item 11.9, this is a deferred report, I believe, from the end of, oh, maybe not. No, my mistake. But nonetheless, a report that we usually receive that celebrates a previous year's worth of engagement with the Youth BioLab. So to the superintendent.
Well, you're right. It came to us in June, but it hadn't made its way to the agenda, and it's come to us in September. So we have a letter from Stephen Jones, who works out of the Youth BioLab. So this is this amazing partnership that started in 2005-06, and here we are. It's still alive today. And it's not only reaching students in LRSD, but students across the province. And so Steve's been wonderful in how he keeps the board updated relative to the partnerships. We have his letter and we have his report to you that we'll also share with the community in a spotlight. The Youth BioLab activity report for 22-23. So lots of great information about this amazing partnership that continues to flourish.
That's great. Folks, any questions on this? That's a nice news story. 14,000 students, I think it said, LRSD students since inception. That passed through the BioLab. That's a lot.
It's had amazing impact.
Yeah. I just I'll wait to load. That takes us to Workplace Health and Safety Annual Report. This item was deferred from June 20th through the superintendent to Assistant Superintendent Jean-Paul for this.
Thank you. A few highlights from the work of the 22-23 Workplace Safety and Health Committee. First of note, the division has received an exemption yet again to have a divisional as opposed to site-based committees for this coming school year. Some of the things that the committee and that the division had committed to through the work of the committee included having online orientation for all staff, and that has been launched this fall. We are also in the process of finalizing online incident reporting, which will also be launched this fall. One of the things that arose in our divisional committee meetings was the need for additional training around site investigations. This training took place for principals and supervisors in the month of May. We've started the practice of, when possible, hosting virtual sessions that can be recorded and uploaded for folks to view later. So as new people move into roles, or if people just need refreshers, that information is there and readily available. In response to the increase of incident reports, particularly from educational assistants that had been identified through the work of the committee, professional learning opportunities are being developed. Already this past May, a session focusing on wellness and resilience was offered to our educational assistants and was very well received by those in attendance, with requests to repeat that for those who aren't able to make it in May. And additional sessions are being planned for this year, including sessions on working safely with students. We look forward to bringing further information to the board from the Divisional Workplace Safety and Health Committee after meeting at our first meeting this coming fall and being able to set some actions and goals for the coming school year. And finally, I want to welcome Marco Rosales, who is our new Workplace Safety and Health Officer who joined us in mid-August. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Trustees, any questions on the information that you've seen and heard? All right, seeing none, then we will move on. Social media updates or communications metrics, I guess we call them, are available. Everything is trending up. Do you want to take a look at what are they?
Do you want to look at August, the latest?
Yeah, let's look at August. Yeah, let's just skip to the most recent.
The trustees have seen the report for May, June, July, and August. So the top X post, I guess it's not Twitter anymore, right? We'll have to change that color to black and X. So we have we see the metrics there. The top X post was the working to create a database of community organizations, associations, and agencies that reflect the LRC community. So this got lots of uptake. Facebook, top post, school bus transportation canceled. LinkedIn, top post, staff celebrating a year of service milestone. Instagram, top post. Winnipeg Folk Festival. We had an LRC performance that opened the event. That was amazing to see. The website story that had the most views was the Tiger's Den. And then our MailChimp campaigns. Lots of information, lots of opens, lots of clicks.
Yeah, that's great. Trustees, any questions? Trustee Palmquist.
Maybe we should add YouTube to this now that we're live streaming.
You're right. We'll have to add YouTube now.
And Threads, maybe. Maybe
Threads.
X is gone and Threads is the new.
Threads, right? Yeah. Are we on Threads?
I don't think so.
No, I don't believe we are yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are we on any of the new like startup social medias?
Not yet.
Yeah, well, I'd probably wait to see which one comes out on top.
Any other
Thank you.
questions? Trustee Nordheim, I see your camera's on. Did you have a question or comment?
No, I did not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that takes us to policy. We have two items. The first one was deferred from June 20th. I'll look to Assistant Superintendent Anderson to provide some context here.
Very good, thank you. For policy JE, this is the policy on student presence and engagement. Trustees, you'll recall giving first and second reading to this policy on May 16th and then June 6th. And the policy responds to direction from the Department of Education for all school divisions to develop policy in this area. And it's the result of collaboration between teachers, administrators, and members of the senior leadership team, along with clinicians as well. The department has been responsive to feedback that we have provided on the direction they've given us, and the version coming before you today for third reading incorporates changes resulting from these conversations with the department. The task force work will continue this fall and over the course of the year as the policy is implemented.
So the recommendation then is that the following policy and administrative protocol reviewed by the Policy Review Committee receive third reading and finally be adopted. That is policy JE, student presence and engagement, and administrative protocol supporting policy JE. I need a mover and seconder, please.
I'll move it. I'll move it.
Moved by Trustee Garrier, second. Trustee Sigurdsson, thank you. Any questions on this? Seeing none, I'll Trustee Palmquist, go ahead.
Would there be, just with respect to attendance, do we have any background or data on the results of the province's billboard campaign they ran earlier this year on student absenteeism? Is there any evidence that that accomplished anything?
I don't know if the province was collecting data specifically to assess the effectiveness of that campaign. It's not something that we've done divisionally.
Yeah, fair enough. Did we observe any improvements
I
over the
haven't
course of
looked to
that
know.
campaign?
It would be very difficult to tie any change in attendance rate to a single factor like that ad campaign. There might be a correlation, or it could simply relate to numerous other factors. And I haven't looked at the data in question to know which way the trend went during that campaign.
And to our knowledge, they didn't collect data, so there's no tracking of how effective or non-effective that program was.
I don't know. They may have done so, but I really don't know if they had a mechanism in place to study the effectiveness of that campaign.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Where were we? Any other questions on this one? Seeing that, I'll call the question then. All those in favor?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Carriers in favor and no opposed, no abstention. So the motion is carried. Thank you. That takes us then to the second policy item, also deferred from June 20th. And again, Assistant Superintendent Anderson will provide some context for us.
Yes, thank you. These are two policies that are coming before you for amendment. Policy GCFA, GDFA is about criminal record check and child abuse register check for both teaching and non-teaching staff. In this policy, there have been several changes proposed. Certainly, the division has a longstanding policy of requiring new employees to provide criminal record check and child abuse registry check at the time of hire. The change in the policy now explicitly states that employees must notify the division if they are under investigation by a child protection authority, if their name is added to the child abuse registry, or if they are investigated or charged with a criminal offense. Similarly, a provision has been added for employees occupying positions where driving is a requirement to notify the division if there is a change to their driving abstract. There have also been a couple of additions to the policy to ensure that we're in line with provincial legislation. One relates to the Personal Investigations Act, and a provision has been added whereby if a prospective candidate is turned down employment with the division owing to the results of the criminal record check or child abuse register check, that they are being informed in writing, which is a requirement of that act. And the second piece of legislation is the Public Schools Act. And certainly the division has had an existing practice for years. If there ever would be a teacher who had been charged with or convicted of an offense under the criminal code related to physical or sexual abuse of children, that the minister would be informed. We're now just codifying this long standing practice by including it as a procedure in this policy. And an additional item at the end of the policy was added because we have a very similar policy related to checks for school volunteers. And this just points people in the right direction, making it a little more user-friendly. And I really have to give a huge thanks to Human Resources Director Jordana Greenberg, who spearheaded the review of this policy, and it has been strengthened significantly because of her suggestions here. The second policy is IKAB, related to the reporting of student learning. And we had done a consultation with staff last year around this policy, and feedback that we had received from elementary schools specifically was that the window for term 1 and term 2 report cards and student progress conferences was very narrow. And that as a result, schools didn't have very much flexibility in scheduling those conferences. And this posed a particularly difficult time with respect to certain religious holidays. So the policy has been adjusted in consultation with folks who submitted feedback and other administrators to widen that window for first term and second term reporting and conferences in elementary schools.
Thank you. So let's get the motion on the table and then we can tackle any questions. The recommendation is that the following list of policies be amended. Policy GCFA, GDFA, criminal record check and child abuse registry check, teaching and non-teaching staff, and policy IKAB, academic achievement, reporting of student learning. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by trustee Garrier. Moved by Kolachek, second by Garrier. Thank you. No, you're good. Any questions on either of these? Seeing none, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Yes.
In favor, you're voting?
Yes.
And then trustee Palmquist awaiting your vote. Okay.
Sorry.
And the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, that takes us to correspondence. This is correspondence that has been captured since prior to the June 20th meeting. There are a number of items that were received from Manitoba Education and Early Childhood Learning, among others. Were there any questions on any of these items? All right, the next item was correspondence from the Manitoba School Boards Association. Any questions on any of these items? The third group is correspondence, again, that came from Manitoba Education and Early Childhood Learning. All right, the next one is correspondence that was sent out to the board. And then finally, school boards, MSBA correspondence that was also received by the board. This will take us to the end of the school year. So seeing no questions on these, we will record and receive all of those. Thank you. This takes us to public question period, and there have been 4 questions that have been sent in. So I don't know that we acknowledge the name of the person posing the question, do we? Do we usually?
We usually call on.
We usually
yes,
call
we
on
do.
someone.
We do.
Yeah.
Okay, so got an additional question. So the first question from Charlene was related to the progress that has been made towards the new school for the Varens community, which I believe was answered as part of an agenda item. Charlene, I encourage you to, that document was over 200 pages. I think it's possible that it could be made available to you, but I would encourage you to work with your school principal on that. And any questions that you might have, knowing that the superintendent has indicated the status of the request and the project itself is going to be widely shared with the school community this year. There was also a question posed about updates on air conditioning units. Again, we received information on a plan that will be received by the board that would see air conditioning upgrades in all schools by the end of our new multi-year strategic plan, which would be 2027. So I hope that answers your questions. There was a question from Saya regarding whether we will be saving these meetings on the channel for public review on demand since we're using YouTube now. The answer is yes. These will be archived. All of our meetings will be archived on the school division website. Anybody at any point who wants to, well, I shouldn't say at any point, there may be a period of time that they expire, for lack of a better word, but certainly anybody who wants to go back and watch the meeting if they had intended to and didn't or want to watch it again, will be able to do that. Luann asked a question regarding LRSD affirming their vision and mission. So in tonight's AGM, the LRSD will affirm their vision and mission. Will the LRSD provide, as stated in its mission statement, a safe and inclusive learning environment for all students, staff, and family members of the LRSD community by committing to an expansive 2S LGBTQ+ curriculum and resources in all of its public schools. Luann, the answer to that is that we continue to develop resources in Louis-Riel that are and provide supports to students and staff and extended family members as needed. We lean heavily on documents that government has developed and provided and direction that they have given, as you will well know, around safe and caring schools. And certainly above and beyond that, we are committed to doing whatever we can to making sure that everybody who works and learns in Louis-Riel, everybody who visits our school division, comes onto our property or visits for whatever reason, knows that they are welcome always and without question. So I hope that answers your question. And if not, you know how to reach me and we can talk further. There was an additional question posed, and I am going to turn to the superintendent to answer this one. It is a question that's been sent in by CBC Radio asking, can you explain what exceptional needs entails in terms of universal washrooms and what kind of discretion do schools have when it comes to getting universal washrooms?
All right. You know, I might actually reach out to a colleague online to also offer insight. So what do we mean by special needs?
In terms of
and
exceptional needs,
or rather exceptional needs.
Yeah.
Yes, and so we will often use the qualifier special or exceptional needs. And so here, what we're suggesting is that there's a diversity of needs amongst our student population, and so these universal washrooms speak to those that diversity of ability that we need to support in our schools, and so with respect to discretion, converting washroom facilities that haven't seen a renovation in many years is a very expensive undertaking, and so 40 schools in LRSD look to the school division to help us navigate through those needs and prioritize for the province, for the government, what facilities should see the investments sooner. And so we're not leaving it to schools to fend for themselves and try to make the case, but collaborate with everyone to bring that case forward to our colleagues in government. Assistant Superintendent Murray, did you want to offer anything more, or others? The Secretary Treasurer may want to offer other insights.
For in the document that we submitted to the province that describes exceptional needs, particular to the washrooms, it has to do with the barriers that some of our students face, particularly with mobility. So children who are in wheelchairs and the like, and so that's what was described in the document that was submitted to the province.
So I would hope, Raphael, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I hope that answers your question. If it didn't, please reach out to the school division. You have the number, and there's a contact form at the bottom of our website. You can post the question if you need additional information, although I'm sure you know how to reach a few folks within the division. That is all of the questions we have for this evening from what has been indicated. I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for their patience as we navigate this new way of doing things. As is always the case, sometimes it's the people that you don't see that are continually tasked with the smaller details, and you can't see Clark Hagan because he's off screen, but he's been busy back and forth making sure all systems are go, as has Jamie. And I've never looked at your screen before during a meeting. This is kind of interesting. So how all the magic works. So take good care, folks. Be well. Do the things that fill your heart and make you smile. Have a great rest of the evening and a really good week. And welcome back to LRSD. And the meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
Thank you.